Well, hello, and welcome to another edition of From the Woods Today. I'm Renee Williams.
And I'm Billy Thomas.
And we greatly appreciate you being here today. You know, Billy, we never disappoint with a full lineup, do we?
No, and not only that, but we've got some kind of new guests, right? Some of these guests you may have heard on previous podcasts or other episodes, but you're going to see them live today. So we're really excited about that. We're going to start off today's show with a nice segment on Reforest the Bluegrass. This is an effort that's happened here in the Fayette County area, but there's other examples of reforesting going on here in Kentucky. We have it in northern Kentucky. We have it in Frankfort and other areas. It's a tree planting time, if you will. So we have Heather Wilson, who is with the Lexington Fayette Urban County Government. She's the Urban Forestry Program Coordinator, and she's going to be talking about some of what's going on with the upcoming one. And we also have a part of that segment, Dr. Kenton Sena. He is a lecturer at the Lewis Honors College here at UK, but he's also a graduate out of the UK here, and he's just all around great guy. But he's also been working a lot with the Reforest the Bluegrass and some of the other efforts to kind of using those sites going forward. So we'll look forward to hearing from both of them. And then we're going to have Laurie Thomas talking about the tree of the week. This is a cool tree, and it leads right in to Maeve Draper, who is a forest health technician, who's going to be talking about hemlock woolly adelgid and treatments that you all can do as needed at home. And so we're really excited to have you all with us. If you're joining us via Zoom, please use the chat function to interact with us. And if you're on Facebook Live, you can use the comment section and we'll respond accordingly. But again, Renee, a great show. I'm looking forward to it.
We do. And, you know, we have one more thing, too. We have the Kentucky Forest Leadership Program that Lori's going to be talking about, and also an academy for youth. So
if you know of any youth, please make sure you get your pencil ready and you jot down these notes, because there are some opportunities upcoming that you all want to take advantage of if you do know some youth that are interested in the natural resources that we have here in Kentucky.
Got to get them in there while they're young.
Yes.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So from Reforest the Bluegrass, we are going to talk to Kenton and Heather. So if you don't mind turning on your cameras, and we can go ahead and start talking to you about this wonderful program. It's not just planting trees though, right?
No, it's not just planting trees. It's a big community event. So it's bringing people together with trees, planting trees, learning about trees. We have an education tent that'll be set up really to connect people with the environment in ways that they can be involved with growing our urban canopy.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm looking forward to your presentation.
All right, great. Well, so again, my name is Heather Wilson. I am the program manager for urban forestry for the city of Lexington. And today I'm going to talk to you all about Reforest the Bluegrass. So this is an event, for anyone who doesn't know, that's been happening in and throughout Lexington for over 20 years. It began in 1998. And since then, we've had one every year until the pandemic hit. We did have to push pause on our plantings because it is a big community event, which brings a lot of people together. Over the course of the past 20 years, we've planted over 195 acres of floodplains. The program did stem out of the need to reforest these kind of denuded areas that fed right into our waterways. Lots of reasons for that. One was to help control the flow of stormwater, but also to help, cool our streams and increase wildlife and diversity, and really to really bring back some of those environmental benefits that were lost when we just had big open grassy areas. We've had over 17,000 volunteers involved with the plantings over the years, and we've planted more than 150,000 tree seedlings. It varies year to year depending upon the size of the location that we're in. But in general, we try to get in at least 3,000 tree seedlings, and we've had years that we've had up to 10,000 tree seedlings planted. This whole planting is done through the generous sponsorship of local companies. And so, so the funding for the trees and the donation of trees and supplies comes from outside agencies from our community. And then we provide the spaces and the volunteer efforts and the community event. Just a quick introduction. I kind of touched on this briefly. It began out of the Division of Engineering and Stormwater, really to try to tackle the problem that we were having with these denuded stream banks. And so these are some of the old banks and open waterways that are now forested that I'll go more in depth into as we move forward. So again, as I mentioned, this is done through the generous support of our sponsors. This is a list of this year's sponsors this year. We couldn't do it without all these sponsors providing money, time, and trees oftentimes. This is a map of where our locations have been. Again, we had 2019 was our last event. That was our 20th anniversary. And then right after that, of course, we had to push pause. But as you can see, we try to space our forests out all around Lexington. We try not to center them all in one area because reforesting all over Lexington is important. I just wanted to go through a couple of images. It's always helpful to see things, you know, the difference that change can make. And so this was actually our second planting. It happened at Masterson Station Park in 2000. And so if you're familiar with Masterson Station and you drive into the park, you'll drive through a forest as you first come down that hill. And back in 2000, this is what that park looked like. It was nothing but a few trees along the boundaries of the waterways and then open grassland. The picture there on your left is what it looked like after that planting. Those are the maps that kind of denoted where the trees were. And the picture on your right is how it looks today. Wellington Park, again, just some more pictures. This is the stream that we were trying to help support in that planting effort. And as you can see, it was all open ground. It had been an old farm. And then again, there's the picture on the left that is a day of event picture. And then on the right is how it looks today. I don't know if you can see my mouse. There's a little bridge back here, kind of in line with this sinuing. And this tree line that spans both sides of the bridge is the creek right here that we saw open in the previous pictures. Ribbon Park, this is out by Veterans Park. It's kind of behind the fire station that's out there. Again, open field, creek that didn't really have anything buffering the water running straight off the field and into the waterway. And this is that area today. And again, this is our last one, 2019, Masterson Station. There's a big open field above the old tree or the tree line that we established in 2000. And we wanted to create a space that kind of fed from the upper hillside down into that existing forest. So now we have two generations of forest here at Masterson. And you can see the forest in the background of that picture on your right is the forest that was planted in 2000. And this looks overgrown. If you look real close, you can see all the seedlings in there. This is the forest this past fall, all new trees. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure I think I missed a slide here. I went too fast. I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that this year we'll be hosting our event out at Bella Woods Park, which is out the Tates Creek area. It's off of Forest Green Drive behind the shopping area that's there at Tates Creek. It is on Saturday, April 9th. It will be a little bit different this year. We are asking people to pre-register and we are limiting volunteers this year. In general, we've never limited them before, but since we're first coming out of our pandemic and you know, things are still up in the air for health and how people feel about being in close proximity, we are asking for people to pre-register. The links are provided here if you want to write those down. I am always looking for crew leaders. And so if you're interested in doing more than planting, if you're interested in guiding groups and teaching them how to plant the day of the event, feel free to reach out to me and we can set up some training and I can give you more information about that. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kenton so he can talk a little bit about some of the great efforts that he has in our reforest sites now that we are working with him on.
Awesome. So yeah, thanks Heather for that introduction. I'm always just so excited to see those before and after pictures of the sites, especially like Masterson Station site and then all of those sites actually, there's just such a profound kind of change. And what I'm always so encouraged about is that like those were just fields and open riparian areas, and then a bunch of community members got together and planted trees, and now 10, 15, 20 years later we've got forests developing on those sites, and that's pretty, I think it's pretty remarkable, like the potential impact of community action in our local forests. So I'm Kenton Senna. I teach in the Honors College at UK, and like Billy said, I graduated from UK Forestry back in the day, and I'm really excited to continue to partner with UK Forestry, and our new and continuing to develop partnership with LFECG is also really exciting. So In 2020, we got some funding from a UK Sustainability Challenge grant to do some research at Reforest the Bluegrass sites. So we established monitoring plots at all 20 Reforest the Bluegrass sites. And this was with help from 5 undergraduate students over that summer. We got soil samples from all those sites, started doing water quality sampling at sites that had streams flowing through them, like the Veterans Park site and the Ribbon Park site. We did some plant community surveys, including the trees and shrubs and then understory plants. And we did some bird surveys. Our essential kind of basic research question was to evaluate how plant community structure is shifting over time since planting, and then how aspects of the plant community that's developing on these sites is interacting with other aspects of the plant community and how those are working together with soil and water and wildlife. So those are some of our like overarching questions. I don't want to belabor too much here. We got one paper published in the journal Forests that reported on the woody plant data, so our overstory trees and our understory trees and shrubs. Our basic results, some key results are that our older sites are developing a robust overstory. So this figure shows the upper overstory canopy height on the y-axis, on the vertical axis, and on the horizontal is just the year of planting. So the older sites are towards the left of this figure. And this figure was prepared by my collaborator, Zach Hackworth in the forestry department. I'm thankful to him for his wizardry. So you can see that, you know, when we first start out, these sites just have really short trees. They're not reaching into the canopy yet. But as we move after, you know, in the years after planting, these trees are growing up and they're starting to form a canopy. You know, by the time we get to the older sites, like the Masterson Station site that was planted in 2000, it actually looks like a forest. You've got a closed canopy in some areas, really nice shade, and so on. So we're expecting to see some cool, you know, to continue to monitor these sites and see how they develop over time. The problematic aspect of all of this is the species invasion that we're noticing. So this figure, also prepared by Zach, shows the understory species composition. The blue bars are native plants, native species, and the red bars are invasive species or introduced. So this figure just shows that in the older sites, we're starting to see increased importance of introduced species in the shrub layer, such that they're actually overtopping or growing up over the native species. We have a higher average height of introduced species in these sites. So this kind of leads into the next thing. So Heather and Nathan and others on their team have been working for a long time to do management on these sites. A central goal of their management efforts has been removing invasive species to help improve forest health on these developing forests. And this research just kind of supported that observation that they already knew that invasive species were really problematic on these sites. So, ongoing work that we're doing right now, we're still collecting water samples. I've got a student named Brendan who's doing water quality sampling every other week on a set of 7 sites, including some Reforest the Bluegrass sites. We are in the middle of deploying leaf packs on those streams to collect some data on insect communities that are present in the streams to get a better sense of stream health. I'm excited to start doing some preliminary bat data collection with a colleague from Eastern Kentucky University. Hopefully we'll be able to start collecting some preliminary data this summer to see whether bats are using these sites. That'll be really cool. And then we have an ongoing project with a master's student in forestry who's being advised by Dr. John Cox, who's collecting, using some recording devices to record bird songs, and then using those data to interpret bird community usage on the sites. The last thing I want to mention, this is my last slide, we are really excited to be collaborating and to coordinate work days, community work days at Reforest the Bluegrass sites. So we had we've had 2 really successful events so far, one in October of 21 and one in February of this year, where we had students from UK and community members come out and help us cut bush honeysuckle from the Masterson Station site that was planted in 2000. cut it, and then folks with pesticide applicator licenses are coming along and treating that with herbicide to make sure it doesn't grow back. And we've cleared a kind of a significant chunk of that year 2000 planting, and we're excited to keep working to collaborate coordinate future events, and hopefully do some underplanting and other sorts of things. So if you're interested in more information about how you can be involved in those, just shoot me an email. My email address is there, and you should also be able to find it online fairly readily if you need it. So.
Thank you so much for that presentation. We greatly appreciate it. And, we did have a question in the chat pod about, have any efforts been undertaken to reestablish the native understory plants?
Yes, and Kenton can talk more to this as well. But yes, our staff has been adding into the understory plantings over the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
We've been able to up that a little bit in the past 2 years with working with Dr. Senna. So in-house, we do that. We'll take, we have leftover tree seedlings from Reforest the Bluegrass, and we'll add them in. We've worked with a couple of different community and neighborhood groups to add in tree seedlings. And we'll be working with Dr. Senna and Dr. Barton with a school group in the next coming weeks to add more tree seedlings back into those understories.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great question, because if you just remove the invasive species and you don't plant natives in their place, the literature suggests that invasive species will just come back. So yeah, we're really interested in kind of pairing our removal projects with underplantings. And I think, Heather, we'll continue to work on how this will actually look, but I think it'll be really cool long-term to think about seeding in other like non-woody plants, like some other herbaceous species and so on, to really see if we can increase our species diversity in the understory, for sure.
Yeah, agreed. It also made me remember that we've had a couple of tree week events where we've gone and underplanted in other reforest locations. And I'm not sure if your graphs show this yet, but I just know from walking around in some that we are starting to see natural regeneration and natural seeding in from species of surrounding trees that are within and around the site. And so we do manage to try to make sure that those come up and don't get outcompeted by the invasives that have shown up in those sites as well.
That's wonderful work.
I know, I tell you, I love this collaboration that you all have got going on. I love the engagement with the community, and I love getting more trees on the ground. It's a beautiful work. But you all bring up some really important points as well. A lot of times when we're talking to folks, you can't just do like one thing and walk away, right? You can't just kind of put the tree in the ground and walk away from it. You got to kind of make sure that it's going to be successful. And, we encourage all of our woodland owners and others out there to make sure that they're monitoring their stuff. And you all give us good examples of why that's so important. So, just delighted to have you all on the program and sharing your work. And hopefully you'll inspire others to get involved and be part of this great effort that's going on.
Definitely. Heather or Kenton, could you give us those dates again and how to register?
Sure. April 9th, we have Reforest the Bluegrass. It will be at Bella Woods Park. You can access the registration through the lexingtonky.gov website. You can go to lexingtonky.gov/reforest. You can also just Google Reforest the Bluegrass 2020, Lexington, Kentucky. It'll take you to our page, and the Eventbrite sign up link will be on that page. We are asking that people register for one of 4 one-hour event timeframes. So we have events from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, and 12 to 1. And I did want to mention in the past, and you can see in those pictures that we always use tree mats to cover our seedlings. We are not going to be using tree mats anymore. They don't biodegrade, and we find them in the old sites. So what we will have out there is large piles of wood chip mulch. And so as part of your planting, we'll be asking people to then go cover their, or not cover, but place mulch around their tree seedlings. It'll help with weed suppression, as well as help build that soil around them, and ideally cover in from any air pockets that might be left in the planting. So there will be tree planting, but there will also be mulching involved to take up a lot of volunteer time and effort.
Wonderful. We greatly appreciate you doing this and doing this for our communities.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll encourage our viewers here in Central Kentucky to get involved. There's lots of opportunities where you can have an impact on our local ecosystem. So again, Kenton, Heather, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Oh, very cool, Renee. Nice
Very
segment.
cool.
This Reforest the Bluegrass, I mentioned before, I know we've got folks that are doing this in other parts of the state as well. So, maybe we'll hear from some of those folks in the future.
Right. Yeah, I think it would be lovely to have, a follow up on how Reforest the Bluegrass went and, how many trees they planted and that kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. So we'll still talking about trees, but we'll switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk next. We're going to have Laurie Thomas on. She's going to be talking about a tree of the week that kind of leads into what Maeve's going to be talking about a little bit.
Yeah, so we've got and I did want to give a shout out to the Reforest the Bluegrass. It's a great program. Some of those sites, I've been around Lexington. I saw them when they first started and what they are today, and they're really wonderful to walk in, use them as educational tools too, and a great opportunity for volunteer hours for your youth or adults. So yeah, join. It's a great opportunity. But we are talking now about our tree of the week, and this one is Eastern Hemlock. And I won't say much more. We'll just let the video roll. And then I know we're going to kind of follow up with Maeve. Draper's going to talk about some of the efforts that are being employed to combat some of the problems with Eastern Hemlock.
I'm Laurie Thomas with the University of Kentucky Forestry and Natural Resources Extension, and I'm here with the tree of the week, the Eastern Hemlock. Eastern hemlock, Tsuga canadensis, is an eastern conifer of cooler climates. It's also called Canada hemlock or hemlock spruce. There are 4 Tsuga species in North America, 2 in the east and 2 in the west. Eastern hemlock is a slow-growing, long-lived tree that may take 250 to 300 years to reach maturity and live as long as 800 years. It is considered a medium to large-sized tree that in mature stands typically grows 2 to 3 feet in diameter and up to 100 feet tall. Eastern hemlock is one of the most shade-tolerant trees in our forest. It can survive in as little as 5% shade. It is a graceful-looking tree when young with a pyramidal shape, and open-grown trees will retain branches that often touch the ground. It is valued as an ornamental landscape tree and as a wildlife tree since many species of wildlife benefit from the excellent habitat that a dense stand of hemlock provides. Eastern hemlock's native range includes the southern border of Canada to Nova Scotia, into New England, into the mid-Atlantic and Lake states, and south into the Appalachian Mountains in northern Georgia, and west into Indiana and western Kentucky with small pockets. In our state, it is found mostly in the east. Eastern hemlock grows on a variety of soils that are moist and well drained. It is typically found in cool coves and ravines, but can also be found on rock outcrops of north-facing slopes. Hemlock is susceptible to drought and windfall due to its shallow root system. Eastern hemlock is an evergreen conifer. The leaf is a flat needle that is single on the stem. It's not in groups or in bundles like we see with some of our other conifers. The needles are mostly two-ranked. That means the needles are on opposite side of the twig and separated by about 180 degrees, and so that branch will kind of lay flat. The needles are typically about a half an inch long and taper to a dull point. They are shiny dark green on top and have 2 white lines of white stomata on the underside of the leaf. The stomata are the minute pores in the surface of the leaf or the needle. The needles usually persist for about 3 years on a tree. Eastern hemlock is monoecious, meaning a tree has both male and female flowers or reproductive structures. The reproductive structures are in separate clusters on the same branch in hemlock. The male reproductive structures or conolets are yellow, small and round, and in the axis of the needles from last year's growth. The female conelet is light green and forms at the end of the branch. The pollen is wind dispersed in the spring between April and June. And trees begin flowering by about 20 years of age and may flower up to 450 years old. Eastern hemlock fruit is an ovoid or egg-shaped light brown cone. It is usually 3/4 inches long with rounded entire scales. The cones change from yellowish green to purple brown when they mature. When they mature in the fall around mid-October, they are deep brown and the scales open to release the seed. The cones close in wet weather and open again when it's dry. This prolongs seed dispersal. Eastern hemlock has very small seeds and they are dispersed by wind, but usually fall within the tree's canopy range because their wings are very small. Seeds germinate the following spring. And eastern hemlock begins producing cones around 20 years of age and will continue cone production up to 450 years. It is a good seed producer with cone crops over 60% of the years. It is considered the most frequent cone producer among eastern conifers. Typically, eastern hemlock produces cones every year with large crops every 3 to 4 years. Cones will persist through the winter, and eastern hemlock does not sprout and only rarely will it layer. The bark of eastern hemlock is brownish on young trees and begins to become scaly as the tree grows and ages. On older trees, the bark is more of a reddish brown with wide ridges and furrows, and when the surface of the bark is freshly cut, you can see dark purple streaks within that bark. The heartwood of eastern hemlock is light reddish brown, and the sapwood can tend to be slightly lighter in color, but usually it isn't distinguished from the heartwood. The tree has noticeable growth rings, which can create an interesting grain pattern when the wood is flat or plain sawn. This is the most common method of cutting wood into boards. This method has minimal waste and also showcases a cathedral look of the annual rings. It is rated as non-durable regarding decay resistance. Eastern hemlock is one of the 2 primary commercial species of hemlock harvested in North America. The other is western hemlock, Tsuga heterophylla. Eastern hemlock is an important wildlife tree. Numerous animals browse the foliage, including white-tailed deer, moose, snowshoe hare, and eastern cottontail. Mice, voles, and birds consume the seed, and porcupines gnaw on the bark. Dense stands also provide cover for wildlife. Cove forests in the Appalachian Mountains provide nesting sites for many birds, including a variety of migratory warblers. The large hollow trees also provide denning sites for black bear. Eastern hemlock wood is used primarily as construction timber for light framing, roofing, subflooring, boxes, crates, and pulpwood. It is also widely used as an ornamental tree for landscaping. The graceful tree is handsome throughout the year, with a much softer form than most of our other conifers. It responds well to pruning and shearing and is often used as a hedge. Currently, there are more than 50 different cultivars of eastern hemlock. Eastern hemlock is under attack by the hemlock woolly adelgid, which is a small sucking insect like an aphid that threatens the health and survival of eastern hemlock trees. The adelgid was introduced from Asia in the 1950s and has spread throughout much of the hemlock's range, including Kentucky. The adelgid attaches to the bark at the base of the needles and sucks the sugars from the trees. Their feeding causes needles to dry up, turn a grayish color, and die and fall off. In addition, because the adelgid kills the apical bud, it prevents the tree from producing new growth, and heavy infestations can kill a tree within 4 to 10 years. The last national champion eastern hemlock listed was in 2013. Currently, there is no champion listed. In 2013, that national champion was in Macon, North Carolina, in the Great Smoky Mountains. It was 192 inches in circumference and 159 feet tall. The Kentucky champion eastern hemlock is in Letcher County, and it's 149 inches in circumference, 135 feet tall, with a 53-foot crown spread. If you'd like to know more about champion trees, check out American Forest Champion Trees, or check out the Kentucky Division of Forestry Champion Trees. Now for a few fun facts about eastern hemlock. Eastern hemlock is the state tree of Pennsylvania. From the 1880s to the 1930s, eastern hemlock was extensively harvested for its bark, which was used in the leather tanning industry. Tragically, only the lower bark was peeled off, leaving the standing tree to slowly die. Although this tree is often confused with the hemlock that Socrates drank, which was poison hemlock, Conium maculatum, eastern hemlock is not poisonous. Its needles have been used to make a tea that's high in vitamin C. One of the largest eastern hemlocks recorded had a circumference of 238 inches and was 175 feet tall. The scientific genus name Tsuga is the Latinized form of the Japanese common name of hemlock, and the species name canadensis means from Canada. Thank you for joining me to learn about the eastern hemlock. I hope you get the opportunity to get out into your woodland, local park, or neighborhood and enjoy the eastern hemlock.
Thank you, Laurie. Appreciate those every week for sure.
You know, a lot of those trees are being attacked.
Yeah, I know, and I meant to ask Laurie, I was wondering about why we haven't seen a national champion, identified since 2013. Maybe it has something to do with what's going on with the hemlock woolly adelgid. And
Probably. So we have Maeve on here to tell us a little bit about what is happening. So Maeve, if you want to turn your camera on.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Lori, for that video. That was fantastic.
So what's going on with our hemlock trees?
Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about the hemlock woolly adelgid, which is an invasive pest that's attacking our native eastern hemlock trees. So I just have a few slides about that. So I'm just going to be talking about, what the adelgid is, where it can be found, what it looks like, if you're out in the woods, how you can ID it, and how far it's spread in Kentucky. Then I'll just go through a couple management options. So if you do see it on your hemlock trees, what you can do about it. So the hemlock woolly adelgid is a tiny invasive pest. It's an aphid-like insect that affects our native eastern hemlock trees that you just learned all about. It was first detected in the 1950s, and then a few decades later in the 1980s really started to spread very rapidly. It spreads so quickly and easily here because there are no natural enemies, so no really native predators here to stop its spread. It can spread from tree to tree on its own, or birds I know can potentially spread it. And so it's causing widespread hemlock mortality here in our eastern Kentucky forests and all throughout a lot of the range of hemlock. And so in this picture here that you're seeing, this is in the Smokies. All those dead trees are hemlock trees that have died from hemlock woolly adelgid damage. And so we do get a lot of questions about, why is this pest here? Why do we have it? And why is it a problem? There are hemlock species present in both North America and in Asia. And so we think that the hemlock woolly adelgid is likely from Japan. There, it doesn't really cause much damage because in these circled yellow areas, there are predators that help keep its populations in check. The trees there also have some resistance to it. Even in the Western US, the species of hemlock there are some predatory beetles that live there that help keep the adelgid population from spreading too much. But here in the range of eastern hemlock that you're seeing in blue on the right there, we don't have those same predators and host resistance. So unfortunately, as a result, it spreads pretty easily and can cause some problems. So these adelgids are soft-bodied insects, almost too small to see, but what you will see if you're looking for it are these white woolly ovisacs on the undersides of the needles. And this is where it gets its name, the hemlock woolly adelgid. And so the adelgids feed at the base of the hemlock needles, sucking out the sap and really stressing the trees. And as Lori mentioned in her video, they can prevent new growth, new buds and everything, and they can cause the needles to die. They cause a lot of dieback. In infested trees, you'll see the branches may start to die from the bottom up. And heavy infestations can kill trees in 4 to 6 years. Sometimes trees will live longer, depending on where they're growing, their environment, their overall tree health, and things like that. But again, just most noticeable are these small white woolly ovisacs on the undersides of the needles. This is where their eggs are laid. And so the egg laying and life cycle of the adelgid is complex, but just in general, so there are 2 generations on hemlocks each year with eggs laid in those cottony white sacs each time. And the sacs may be present all year round, but they are most visible in the early spring. And so right about now or in the following months is a really good time to go out if you're thinking about trying to see if your hemlock trees are affected. It's a pretty easily seen thing right now on your hemlock trees if they do have the woolly adelgid. And so just to give you an idea of where the adelgid has spread, here's a map of the counties with hemlock woolly adelgid detected by 2018. So green is, again, that native range of eastern hemlock. Red is counties with hemlock woolly adelgid. And you can see we have some areas here in Western Kentucky and in Northeastern Kentucky that are in the native range of hemlock but don't have the adelgid yet. Hopefully it hasn't been detected there. So monitoring and detection in those areas it's particularly important. And again, here are the Kentucky counties with the adelgid. This is the most recent map, just updated this year. So if you're in one of these affected counties and think you might have some infected trees, but want to know how you can treat it for the adelgid, I'll just briefly mention some treatment options with insecticide. So all of these application methods here work by getting the insecticide into the vascular system of the tree, into that tree sap. So when the adelgid goes to feed on it, it also ingests the insecticide as well, along with the sap, and it dies. So two of the more common insecticides recommended are imidacloprid and dinotefuran. Dinotefuran is a little bit more fast acting. So if your tree is very affected or very stressed, you may want to consider that. But in general, in my experience, imidacloprid works well, and it's widely available and widely used. And so these treatments will protect your hemlock tree for 4 to 7 years. And I actually have there's a video that we've made on how to complete a soil drench with imidacloprid. It's a pretty easy process. And we'll show that next, but I have one more slide before we do. I do want to mention one more thing, and that is a different invasive pest of hemlock. It's much less serious and not as widespread, but it can be considered a look-alike. It looks a little bit similar to hemlock woolly adelgid, and so this is elongate hemlock scale. And I just like to mention it because landscape hemlocks in particular can be affected by this. You can treat it with insecticide as well. It's present year-round, and just wanted to point this out. So be aware that if you're looking for adelgid on your ornamental landscape hemlock tree, you might be seeing some of this as well, in addition or instead. So just be aware that there are other issues that affect our eastern hemlock trees, but hemlock woolly adelgid, in my experience, is far and away one of the worst, and it causes a lot of problems. And so if you would like to know how to treat your tree a pretty easy, straightforward way, Billy is going to share a video that we have made, and afterwards I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Hemlock woolly adelgid is an invasive insect killing hemlock trees throughout eastern Kentucky. Once infected, trees can die in as little as 4 years. However, treatment with insecticide can help prevent this. This video will walk you through how to use a soil drench with the insecticide imidacloprid to treat your tree and protect it from the adelgid. First, make sure you are wearing the correct personal protective equipment. This includes gloves, long sleeves, long pants, and eye protection. Then, place the proper amount of chemical in a mixing container. For this information, always read the label and follow the label. The label is the law. For example, for a 2.5 gallon jug as seen here, we place 8 1.6 ounce water-soluble packets inside, or 1 packet per every 34 ounces. Then, fill the jug up to the top 2.5 gallon fill line with water to ensure the correct concentration of chemical. Make sure you are a good distance away from your water source in case of a spill, and mix the chemical solution thoroughly to ensure packets are dissolved. Now, you are ready to treat your tree. To do this, you need a way to measure the correct amount of chemical for each tree. A 50-ounce Nalgene bottle with the number of ounces delineated on the side is a good tool for this. Pour chemical from the jug into the bottle. Then, measure the diameter of the tree at breast height, around 4.5 feet above the ground. Soil drench rate recommendations vary, and you should always follow the label. But a good rule is 1 ounce of chemical mixture per inch of tree trunk diameter. For example, a 14-inch tree, as seen here, requires 14 ounces of chemical mixture. Once you know how much chemical you need, you should expose the bare soil at the base of the tree. Move any duff or leaf litter away from the base of the tree on all sides. Then, pour the proper amount of chemical around the tree, equally on all sides, as close to the trunk as possible. If your tree is on a hill, you may want to pour more of the chemical on the upper slope of the tree to ensure uptake as it moves through the soil. After pouring, be sure to replace the top layer of soil and leaf litter. This prevents sunlight from degrading the chemical. If treating many trees, also mark already completed ones to avoid overapplication, and record the diameter and amount of chemical applied as to not exceed the maximum amount of pesticide use allowed per acre. You can check the label for this information. After treatment, your hemlock tree is protected for 4 to 7 years, after which retreatment is recommended. For other information on hemlock treatment or other forest health issues, contact your local county extension office or the Kentucky Division of Forestry, and be sure to follow Kentucky Forest Health on social media.
Well, thank you. We greatly appreciate that, Maeve. I was wondering, do you know what kind of treatment, pesticide that they put in they treat the trees with?
Yeah, so what you just saw in the video is imidacloprid. And so that's a pretty widely used insecticide. It can be used for EAB and other pest issues like that as well. But yeah, you can buy it already diluted in liquid form, but you saw Alexander there using some packets that dissolve in water, and it's widely available. You can buy it. You don't need a special license or anything to buy that insecticide.
Okay. We did have a question. It's, should we treat hemlock as a preventative measure or only when aldelgid is present? So is it like, should you do it beforehand or not?
Yeah, so in general, we definitely always recommend treatment if it's present. If you are certain that it is very nearby, you could treat your trees as a preventative measure. So it does protect your trees for 4 to 7 years. So if you live in one of those counties where hemlock woolly adelgid is present and you've seen it very nearby, you could go ahead and use it as a preventative measure. It would definitely protect your tree if the adelgid is not there yet, but comes in the next couple years.
So if it's not present, should you just leave it alone, or what's the best thing to do for that?
If it's not present in your area, I would not recommend treatment yet. You know, if you live in Western Kentucky, it's not really an issue there yet, but definitely recommend monitoring and surveying your trees. So if you're out there in the spring, it's a really good time of the year to look. It's always worth a look. Whenever I walk by a hemlock tree, I just turn over the needles and look for those little white woolly sacks.
Yeah. And Billy, I know with our woodland owners, I don't know if you had, 50 acres, if this would be something you could do with your hemlocks.
Well, you're going to have to really care about all those hemlocks, and it's more for, at least for many of our landowners, you're going to kind of have to select the trees you want to kind of save. If you've got widespread 50 acres, that's a big kind of undertaking to try to treat those. So, I think you would want to prioritize trees. Maybe, I don't know if y'all got any insight or other advice you might have for landowners that have a lot of these trees, how they might go about that type of treatment or how to approach it.
Sure, yeah. So we definitely, trees that are along waterways are going to have a higher impact to the ecosystem when they die. So we would recommend treating trees in very ecologically important areas. If you have a lot of land, maybe select either legacy trees or trees that are important to you personally, or trees that are in these very important areas like riparian areas and along waterways.
Do you need to do anything different if they are along a waterway? Is that possible about that getting into the water?
Yeah, so when I worked for the Kentucky Division of Forestry, and if we had to treat trees right next to water, we generally tried to leave a few feet buffer, so 5 to 10 foot buffer. You can also back treat your tree with this soil drench method. So as long as you're under the drip line of the canopy, if you're pouring that imidacloprid onto the soil, there are still roots there that are going to take up the chemicals. So if your tree is right next to some water, you can just back up maybe until you're a few feet away and still under that canopy drip line, and the tree is going to still take up some of that chemical.
So you've got some options kind of regardless of your situation.
Good to know.
Yeah, Mae, really appreciated your video and your segment there, and hope to see you on future episodes.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Very cool. Very cool, Renee.
So we've got some youth opportunities coming up, and Lori Thomas is going to be on to tell us about those.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. I wanted to share 2 programs that applications are open for right now. And I'll start with the Kentucky Forest Leadership Program. Hopefully you can see that on your screen. So our Kentucky Forest Leadership Program, it runs June 5th through the 10th at the university's Robinson Forest. So it's a wonderful facility for those of you who have been there. It is a week-long residential program for high school students. So as long as you're in high school, or even if you're a senior that's about to graduate, you are still eligible for this program. But those youth get the opportunity to really kind of experience a 4-year forestry and natural resources degree in 1 week. They kind of get all kinds of information, lots of hands-on, get to learn what foresters do, what wildlife biologists do, what entomologists do out in the woods. And it's a very hands-on type program. And if you're interested, you can watch the video, kind of talks about some of the students share what they've learned. But there are 3 educational tracks. If someone's interested, the student will choose either the forestry track or the entomology track, in which case they will work with Blake Newton as the lead educator. And if they choose the wildlife track, they will work with Dr. Matt Springer as the main lead educator on that. We do this in partnership with the Kentucky Division of Forestry, who they're so kind to provide us with 3 foresters every year to kind of help guide these students through learning about what we do out in the forest, how we measure it, the plans we make to take care of it. So it's a wonderful program. If you are interested, you can just go to the tab how to apply, or you know someone who is, and you can download an application there. You can find out more about the different educational options there. There are scholarships available for the program. You can reach out through Mark Davis at the Division of Conservation, and he can put you in touch with your local conservation office to see if they're able to provide the youth a scholarship. Or there's also the Kentucky Woodland Owners Foundation partial scholarship that youth can apply for as well. The deadline for application for this program is May 20th. And I'll say, if you do know someone who's interested, go ahead and apply. We're about half full right now. So you want to make sure you get your application in, because it is, because of Robinson Forest, we do cap our program at 30 students. So that's the Kentucky Forest Leadership Program. It's a great week down at Robinson Forest. The other one I wanted to mention is the, and I'll scroll up so you can actually see it, is the Natural Resource Environmental Science Academy through 4-H. And this program is a 3-year program designed for middle school students. So as a student is coming into 6th grade, they can apply to this program, and they're going to learn all different aspects about our natural resources. They'll learn about the importance of water and our water quality and hydrology in the state. They're going to learn about forestry and forest resources management, ecosystems, and then they'll wrap it up in their 3rd year with learning about the wildlife of Kentucky. And the entire time they're doing this, they're also getting to meet people, professionals in the field, so that they have the opportunity to learn about careers in this program, learn about careers in natural resources. If you're interested, you can go through, and all of our cooperative extension offices in the counties, they have information about this as well. And that's how youth would apply, is through their talk with their agent in the county. But the application is located here for the 2023 enrollment. And this is a 3-year program. So when you register, you're signing up for 3 years. We do meet quarterly. It's not a monthly thing, but we meet quarterly each year. So we get to meet with those students 12 times over that 3-year period. And there are applications for this as well, and those are down here. If we scroll to the bottom, there's a brochure about the Natural Resources Environmental Science Academy, but there's also scholarship applications down there. If you have a youth that's interested but might need a little assistance, there's plenty of scholarships out there. And if you do have additional questions about the 4-H Natural Resource Environmental Science Academy, please reach out to Ashley Osborne. She is the main director. I just assist with this program. But yeah, reach out to Ashley and she can give you all kinds of information. It's a great program. We have a lot of really wonderful youth that have been interested in learning more about our natural resources and have gone on to be ambassadors for the program and are heading up their own, right now, service learning projects. We've got a couple going on around the state. So it's a great way to involve youth at a younger age in learning more about their natural resources and the opportunity for careers in that field as well. So, and the application deadline for that is June 1st.
Sounds like some great opportunities for you, for them to take advantage of.
It is, and they're great because they're so hands-on. There is some obviously information that's provided, but you try to provide as much information as you can out in the field, hands-on, doing by learning. So yeah.
Well, and I know we may not get an overwhelming amount of youth to kind of watch From the Woods today, but I will encourage all of our other viewers or adult viewers, make sure you let the youth in your lives know about these opportunities. They're amazing chances to really connect youth with the natural resources we have here in Kentucky and get more kind of ambassadors for these wonderful natural resources. Laurie, thank you all for all your work, kind of educating our youth on how important our forests and natural resources are.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, Billy, a lot of ground covered again.
No, can't thank Dr. Kenton Cena for being with us, as well as Heather Wilson, and I was glad to have Maeve Draper on as well, and Laurie's always a solid contributor. So yeah, we really appreciate all you all being with us each week and letting others know about it. Renee, as I'm moving around, I'm hearing more people say, "Hey, I heard you all on a podcast or I saw you on TV. So
Right.
please help us spread the word. We've got a lot of great information that comes through this program, and we want to help others take care of their natural resources as well. So help us, please.
Definitely. And you can go to fromthewoodstoday.com and find all of our past shows. And we're coming up on our 100th show pretty soon, in April. And so you'll be hearing more about that soon. But we just really appreciate you taking the time out of each and every Wednesday to join us. And we always have new topics on, and we would love your suggestions if you have any.
Yeah, no doubt. You can let us know. We have a little survey that you can complete at fromthewoodstoday.com. And we've actually received a couple of recent ones on some new show episodes that we're going to be working on. So thank you all for those contributions there. And, one other quick reminder, we've covered a lot of ground, and a lot of times you may not know who to ask on some of these things. Please get to know your local county extension offices. They're amazing resources. They're amazing people that are really working hard to make their local communities better. And they're well connected to all these things that we're talking about. So check in with your local county office and get to know those folks.
Definitely.
And
But, we greatly appreciate you joining us again. And we are done for today, but we will see you next week at 11 o'clock. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
From the woods today.